I think I've been telling lies, 'cause I've never been in love. Everyone falls for the sunshine disguise, distracted by who they're thinking. I'd rather date an idea, something I'll never find. Sure, I'll live in the moment, but I'm never happy here. I'm surrounded by greener looking time. Am I the only one wishing life away? Never caught up in the moment, busy begging the past to stay. Memories painted with much brighter ink. They tell me I loved, teach me how to think. Take what I can get, 'cause I'm too damp for a spark. Kissing sickly sweet guys, 'cause they say they like my eyes, but I'd only ever see them in the dark. I'm sick of faking diary entries, gotta get it in my head. I'll never be 16 again. I'm waiting to live, waiting to love. Oh, it'll be over and I'll still be asking when. Am I the only one wishing life away? Never caught up in the moment, busy begging the past to stay. Memories painted with much brighter ink. They tell me I loved, teach me how to think.
What you just read was an extract from Mr. McGinty's Dead by Agatha Christie, in which Poirot is trying to explain why people keep photographs. This is the question that Susan Sontag grapples with in her 1977 book on photography, which is unbelievably relevant to today. I, for one, am honestly embarrassed to admit that I have over 18,000 photos in my camera roll and a weird addiction to going through my photo albums from my infancy. Why do we do this? Why is it that after a night out with our friends, the first thing we do upon getting back home is texting the group chat asking people to send photos? Why is it that we then post these photos to our Instagrams in a public declaration of love for our friends and the fun that we have together? Has our culture evolved into one which is stuck in our past memories, unable to live in the moment, and trapped in a cult of nostalgia? These are some of the questions I'll be dealing with in today's video, so if that sounds interesting to you, then please stick around and maybe give this video a like. Vanity is defined as excessive pride in or admiration of one's appearance or achievements. This is distinguished from pride, a feeling of deep pleasure or satisfaction derived from one's own achievements, the achievements of those with whom one is closely associated, or from qualities or possessions that are widely admired. And selfishness, of a person, action, or motive, lacking consideration for other people, concerned chiefly with one's own personal profit or pleasure. In a way, vanity is a specific kind of egotism, which is the fact of being excessively conceited or absorbed in oneself. Vanity is egotism focused on one's achievements or qualities of oneself, rather than conceitedness of the self itself. Although Poirot uses a vain woman for his example because vanity is very closely associated with women who are obsessed with their own appearance, this is equally true of men, for example, who keep photographs of their weightlifting championships to preserve this version of themselves back when they were in their glory days. Photographs can be used to commemorate one's achievements or qualities, almost in an indulgent way. Sontag argues that we live in a culture that's focused on commemoration rather than contemplation, and I just wish that she was alive to see the highlight reels of our social medias. I guess a lot of the reason that we post online is a subconscious boast. Look at how great my life is and how good I look and how much fun I have. I mean, how many of us post a picture when we go to the library to send the message to our followers that we're super studious and we have our lives all put together? Wilcox and Stephen's study, titled Are Close Friends the Enemy, reveals that a lot of us rely on social media for affiliation, self-expression, and self-presentation. Emotionally unstable individuals use social media to enhance their self-esteem and well-being when they receive positive feedback to their posts, TikToks, tweets, stories, etc. Reading this honestly made me think that a lot of people my age group must be low in life satisfaction or emotionally unstable, but these behaviours have become so normalised that it's likely that the real reason that we post is just because that's what people do. As suggested by Poirot in Mr. McGinty's Stead, Susan Sontag suggests that we preserve old photos of ourselves in a futile attempt to preserve a younger, perhaps more beautiful version of ourselves, which no longer exists due to the impermanent nature of the human condition. She says that photography is the inventory of mortality. A touch of the finger now suffices to invest a moment with posthumous irony. Photographs show people being so irrefutably there and at a specific age in their lives, group together people and things which a moment later have already disbanded, changed, continued along the course of their independent destinies. Social media is a place where we can put forward only the best version of ourselves, taking Poirot's thesis one step further. Photographs are not an accurate representation of reality since they capture only a slice of time, as pointed out by Sontag. On social media sites, even the photographs that are shared are selected meticulously. If your friend tags you in a photo that you do not like, you can simply hide that photo from your profile. You can delete things that you previously posted, like when you wake up hungover and realise that there's something embarrassing on your story. You might go on holiday and decide to take some nice photos for your Instagram, then have your friend take 100 different photos from 100 different angles and different lightings, then you narrow it down to the perfect shot which will make it to your Instagram profile. We present this as if it's reality, and our mutuals perceive it as such, perhaps commenting, "I wish I looked like you." But is this really you? Sontag writes that photography converts the world into a department store or museum without walls, in which every subject is depreciated into an article of consumption, promoted into an item for aesthetic appreciation. I would argue that the same could be said about social media sites. The person is turned into a marketable good, where we gather pictures showing our best selves to the world in our profiles. This is particularly true of public figures. Take a look at Molly May's account on Instagram. She isn't really her own person. She's a good that big brands are desperate to get their hands on to use as a marketing tool. She makes a lot of her living just off of posting pictures of herself with items that have been sponsored by retailers. It's really laughable how collectively we have made it a somewhat normal profession to get paid for our vanity. Just over a month ago, I deleted TikTok. However, when I realised that I'd simply replaced that platform for Instagram Reels, I deleted Instagram as well, about a week or so later. I noticed that for the first few days, every time I did something remotely cool, I reached for my phone to share this moment, unable to savour the present by myself. I tried to understand why I had this compulsion. A lot of it has become a habit, I guess, second nature to me, just like drinking water when I'm thirsty. It is also a bit of vanity, a certain pride I have over my fun life, which I feel the need to share or show off. But the biggest thing for me, I believe, is sentiment. I like to document all my memories and put them in a photo dump or in a story highlight, which I would then look back on when I was feeling nostalgic. I spent about a month and a half in Brazil last year with my family, and I documented a lot of this on my Instagram stories, which I then made into a highlight. When I came back to the UK, I missed this time in Brazil so much that I looked through this highlight practically every day for the first few months, especially in the winter when I was honestly miserable. I tried to keep my experience alive and relive it again and again every time I watched that same video of my family rowing through the Amazon River. Sontag has some really interesting critiques of tourism and photography, which perhaps explain my experience of madly trying to capture every moment I spent last summer. She writes that taking photos on holiday is a way of both certifying and refusing an experience by converting it into an image or souvenir. Instead of seeing travel for what it really is, creating experiences, we see it as a strategy for accumulating photographs. In other words, we go on holiday in order to take photos rather than to enjoy the experiences that we have whilst on holiday. Sontag posits that we find the activity of photographing relaxing, and it soothes the feeling of disorientation that many of us feel whilst travelling. We don't know how to act, so many of us feel compelled to put a camera between us and whatever it is that we encounter on our travels, and so photography gives us a framework of how to experience. Stop, take a picture, and move on. What I found really interesting was what Sontag said next. This method is most appealing to those in cultures which are handicapped by a ruthless work ethic, and she gives examples of Germans, Japanese, and Americans. When you come to think of it, these are the groups of tourists that we notice the most, and the most stereotyped tourists with a camera. Workaholics use the camera to appease the anxiety which arises by not working whilst on holiday. It gives them a friendly imitation of work. Their new job is to take photos. As I read this, I couldn't help thinking about the rise of travel bloggers, whose literal profession is to travel, take photographs, and upload them to their social media profiles. This is perhaps a laughable example of how capitalism has deluded us. We're so focused on work that even holidaying is now a new money-making, commercializable product. I think I made up the word commercializable. Let's just move on. Why do so many people keep photos of their exes? Part of it, I guess, is sentiment. I still have pictures of my previous boyfriends on my camera roll, not because I'm sentimental about them as people, but rather I don't want to erase a part of my life. But there must be a part of it which is bitter, at least for some people. This will make me sound like a terrible person, but when I hate someone, I hate them deeply, and I very often send their Instagram posts to a friend who also hates them. I'm not condoning this behaviour, by the way, I know it's awful, but on this channel you have my full honesty. However, I think that the use of photography as a weapon is a lot more subtle than suggested by Poirot. Our hatred isn't as clear as keeping a photograph as revenge. Often photographers use their cameras as a tool of aggression, totally subconsciously. I was very lucky to get a bursary to a top private school for my last 2 years of education, and I remember feeling somewhat uncomfortable and confused as I walked around the A-level photography exhibition when I noticed that a large group of my peers had chosen not to photograph their own realities, but rather had sought out other people's less comfortable realities to picture. Edgy black and white photographs of council estates filled several portfolios entitled Reality of Youth or something along those lines. Sontag published On Photography in 1977, when the first digital camera had only just come into existence. Photography was nowhere near as widespread as it is today, and when she writes that anything can be photographed, this could not be as true as it is today. The mobile phone renders every phone user a photographer, and any subject worthy of being photographed. People photograph to capture beauty, whether their own or someone or something else's. Surrealism intended to blur the lines between beauty and ugliness, and asked viewers to change their ideas about what was considered beautiful. Many photographers did the same, such as Diane Arbus, who focused on photographing only those most marginalised from society and deemed ugly. As observed by Walter Benjamin in 1934, the camera has succeeded in turning abject poverty itself by handling it in a modish, technically perfect way into an object of enjoyment. This is what I observed in the A-level photography exhibition. Since photography aims to make everything beautiful, it romanticises and glorifies real, dire experiences. And since now everyone owns a phone camera, it can really go out of control. I don't know if anyone else remembers this, but I recall that during 2020 Skins was trending, mainly on TikTok, and many upper and upper middle class girls were criticised for going to poor areas of London and council estates to film their Effie Stoneham-inspired videos. These girls created a feeling of nostalgia for something that they've never experienced and probably never will. What I just described isn't rooted in hatred, but perhaps more a feeling of superiority. Maybe people photograph others in worse situations to make their own life seem better.
Am I the only one wishing life away? Never caught up in the moment, busy begging the past to stay. Memories painted with much brighter ink. They tell me I loved, teach me how to sing.
Here, knowingly or unknowingly, Dodie makes a reference to Sontag's argument that photographs and videos are an unrealistic depiction of real life. At the beginning of the song, she says, "I think I've been telling lies because I've never been in love." And then at the chorus, she says, "Memories painted with much brighter ink. They tell me I'm loved, teach me how to think." She may not be talking explicitly about photos. She does say memories, but it definitely fits. Photos have been equated to memories. Snapchat even calls your saved photos on Snapchat your Snapchat memories, sending you your 4 years ago today to immortalise the memory. Looking back through her photos, Dodie tricks herself and lies to herself about the fact that she loved, painting her past in brighter ink. She doesn't think for herself in the moment, but rather lets her past indoctrinate her into creating a new reality which never existed. Sontag sums this up brilliantly, saying that photographs do not simply render reality realistically. It is reality which is scrutinised and evaluated for its fidelity to photographs. Stephen West, who philosophised this, made a brilliant episode on Susan Sontag, which was the inspiration for this video. I'd like to share a quote from this episode, which I think is phrased wonderfully. "The focal point of your life is on commemorating the past as opposed to changing the present. Your memories are more important to you than your dreams. Remakes of the same shows and movies from your past, rehashing of the same tropes of old songs, events, or games from the past, all of this matters more to someone in a cult of nostalgia than a focus on reimagining or reinterpreting things in a new light. In the most extreme cases, the collection of pictures on someone's phone becomes not a collection of moments that were fully lived, but a collection of moments that you almost lived, that were tragically cut short by the fixation you had to commemorate it because the picture of the moment is what legitimizes it."
Gotta get it in my head, I'll never be 16 again. I'm waiting to live and waiting to love, or it'll be over and I'll still be asking when.
These lyrics to me really encapsulate what it is to live in a cult of nostalgia. We're so stuck in our past, so obsessed with looking back on our memories, that we miss out on experiencing the present moment. Life will be over, and we'll still be sitting here, waiting and reminiscing. Susan Sontag says that photographs turn the past into a consumable object, and to add to her argument, social media only enhances it. We create memories so they can be posted on social media and remembered, like a film director carefully positioning the set and the lighting to achieve the perfect shot. That concludes today's video, but before I go, I just wanted to share today's recommendation, which is the podcast that I mentioned earlier, Philosophize This. I've been listening to this podcast for about 6 years now, which is insane. It was one of my first exposures to philosophy, and Stephen West just breaks down these massive, complex ideas into a really easy to follow format, which was brilliant for me when I was 14 and only just being introduced to thinkers like Plato, Foucault, and de Beauvoir. It's available on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, Libsyn, and YouTube. That's it from me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I really hope you've enjoyed. If you have, please consider subscribing and turning on post notifications so you keep yourself in the loop. Let's continue this discussion in the comment section, and I hope you all have a great week. Bye!